Marie. I love you. This is what 3-year-old Ethan Miller, an adopted boy, said to Someone in the garden at home. The problem was, no one else could see anyone there. Within 2 months, 5 impossible things happened, 5 warnings a 3-year-old child should not have known. This is the compelling story of what transpired in that Denver house, a true miracle of the Virgin Mary that defy explanation. It's the miracle in Denver that transformed a family. Before we continue, please leave a comment stating where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. I'd love to see how far the miracle of the Virgin Mary are reaching. The Thompson family's life was about to change completely. Michael worked as a civil engineer, leaving home at 7 in the morning and returning after 6 in the evening. Rachel worked as a librarian, accustomed to books, cataloging, and the silence she had always loved. They had tried to have children for 8 years. 8 years of hope followed by disappointment. Expensive treatment had drained not only their finance but also their soul. One day, Rachel stood in front of the bathroom mirror and said "Alou, enough. I can't take it anymore." That was when they decided to adopt. The process took 18 months. Michael and Rachel went through it all with a mixture of hope and fear, eager to welcome an adopted boy into their lives. Then, on a cold March morning, they received the call. There was a boy, 3 years old, named Ethan. The first time they saw his picture, Rachel started to cry. He had light brown hair, a little messy, blue eyes too big for his small face, and an expression that seemed to observe the world with a seriousness no 3-year-old should possess. When Ethan arrived at their house one afternoon in April, he carried a small backpack with all his belongings, 3 sets of clothes, a faded blanket, and a broken plastic toy car. You know that moment when you just know your life has changed forever, even if you don't yet understand how. Rachel felt that when Ethan walked through the door. He stopped in the entryway, his big eyes scanning everything. It wasn't with childlike curiosity, but with caution, if he were calculating how long it would be before he'd be sent away again. Ethan, Rachel said, kneeling down to be at his level. Welcome to your home. Ethan didn't answer, he just nodded politely. In the first few days, that's how it was, Ethan was too polite, too quiet. He never asked for anything. He ate whatever was placed in front of him without a single complaint. During the day, he would sit on the couch, watching Rachel work without saying a word. Michael tried to play with Ethan. He offered toys, suggested games, and turned on cartoon on the TV. Ethan joined in when asked, but without that natural spark of energy children usually have. At night, Rachel could hear Michael in their room. What if he never open up? What if we can't? He asked. Et just in time Rachel would interrupt, to her own voice was filled with do. The Thompson family's house had a backyard garden in Denver. It wasn't big, but Rachel cared for it with devotion. Rose bush she had planted when they married almost 10 years ago now bloomed in shades of pink and red. A small cherry tree offered generous shade in the summer. There was a well-kept lawn where they had always imagined children would one day play. In the quietest corner of the garden, protected by the rose bush, stood an old stone niche, about 5 feet tall. Inside the niche was a beautiful statue of the Virgin Mary. The marble statue was about 3 feet high. The Virgin Mary was depicted with her arm extended forward, as if offering something. Her serene face was sculpted with delicate detail, and her robe was painted a soft blue that time and Denver's weather had made even more beautiful, almost ethereal. The statue had belonged to Rachel's grandmother. When she passed away 2 years earlier, Rachel brought the image home and placed it in the garden. Michael thought it was beautiful. Rachel found it comforting, like keeping a piece of her grandmother close. Neither of them ever imagined that Ethan Miller, their adopted son, would be the one to connect with it the most. It was on a Saturday afternoon, 3 weeks after Ethan had arrived, that Rachel noticed it for the first time. She was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she looked out the window facing the garden. Ethan was outside, a few toys scattered on the grass. But Ethan wasn't playing. He was standing in front of the niche, completely still, is small and gently touching the stone edge. His head was tilted back, eyes fixed on the statue of the Virgin Mary. Rachel smiled softly, thinking perhaps Ethan was finally starting to feel comfortable. The next day, it happened again. Right after breakfast, Ethan asked, truly asked for the first time, can he go outside? Of course, sweetheart, Rachel said, surprised and happy by the request. She watched from the kitchen window as Ethan stepped out the back door and walked straight toward the niche. He didn't stop to look at the toys, he didn't hesitate. He walked with purpose to that key corner of the garden. That is when Rachel realized Ethan was talking. Not loud enough for her to hear the word, but definitely talking. His small lips were moving. He paused, half listening to answer, then spoke again with that same intense seriousness she had already noticed in him. Rachel wiped her on the dish towel and walked out to the garden. Ethan didn't hear her approach, he was completely absorbed. Rachel felt something tighten in her chest. She cleared her throat softly. Ethan turned quickly, his eyes wide. For a moment, he looked like a little boy caught doing something wrong. Ethan, Rachel approached slowly. Who are you talking to, sweetheart? Ethan looked at the image, then back at Rachel. To the lady in blue. Rachel felt a slight chill run down her spine. The lady in blue. Ethan pointed to the image of the Virgin Mary, she's very kind. Rachel didn't know what to say. It was a childish imagination, completely normal for his age. Small children often created imaginary friends, especially those going through big change. And what does she say? Rachel asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Ethan Miller hesitated, half unsure whether he should share. Important things. She says you want me to stay. That you're not going to send me away. Rachel felt tears burn her eyes. She knelt on the damp grass so she was at Ethan's sight. Ethan, look at me. He obeyed, those blue eyes meeting her. You're not going anywhere. This is your home now, forever. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. That is what she said, too. Rachel hadn't mentioned the conversation to Michael yet. She didn't want to worry him for no reason. It was just childish imagination, a way for Ethan to process everything that was happening. During the following week, a routine settled in. Every day when he came home from the daycare where Rachel had enrolled him, Ethan asked to go to the garden. He went straight to the niche. He talked, always quietly, always seriously, for about 10 minutes. Then he played a little with his toys, finally starting to act a bit more like a 3-year-old. Rachel watched through the window. Part of her found it sweet, part of her was slightly worried. But Ethan seemed happy when he talked to the image of the Virgin Mary. It was on a Thursday, 2 weeks after Rachel first witnessed the conversation, that everything changed. Ethan was in the garden talking as usual when suddenly he stood up quickly and ran into the house, not calmly, but with urgency. He burst through the kitchen door where Rachel was preparing dinner. Mom Rachel. It was the first time he called her mom. Mom Rachel, something is wrong at Monsieur Harrison's house. Rachel dropped the knife she was holding. What did you say? The lady in blue told me. Something is wrong at Monsieur Harrison's house. Something that smells bad and is dangerous. She said, we have to tell him right now. Monsieur Harrison was the elderly neighbor who lived alone in the house next door. Widowed for 5 years, he was kind but reserved. Rachel saw him occasionally when he watered his own garden. Ethan, how do you know, please? Ethan grabbed her hand with surprising strength for such a small child. She said it's urgent. Something in Ethan's absolute seriousness, those blue eyes fixed on her, that urgency in his voice, made Rachel hesitate. You know that feeling when something inside you tell you to pay attention, even when it doesn't make logical sense. Rachel felt that. All right, we'll let him know. She grabbed the phone and hesitated. It would sound ridiculous to call a neighbor and say that her 3-year-old had told her something was wrong. But Ethan's urgency was far too real to ignore. She walked to the fence separating their yard. Monsieur Harrison? He was in the garage arranging tools. He turned, smiling keenly. Rachel. Everything okay? I know this might sound strange, but have you smelled anything unusual in your house lately? His smile faded. Why do you ask? It's just that my son mention and smelled something coming from your direction. It's probably nothing, but... Monsieur Harrison frowned. Funny you mention it. The last couple of nights, I've noticed a strange smell in the kitchen. Kind of sweet. Rachel felt her stomach tighten. Maybe it's worth checking your gas lines. Monsieur Harrison nodded and called the gas company. A technician arrived an hour later. Rachel was in the kitchen when she heard an urgent knock at the door. It was Monsieur Harrison, his face pale. Rachel, his voice was trembling. The technician found a leak in the external gas pipe right behind the kitchen wall. He said it's small, but it was there. If it hadn't been found, it could have caused a dangerous build-up, a fire, or worse. Rachel felt her leg go weak. How did your son know? Monsieur Harrison asked, genuinely curious. Did he smell it from outside? He don't know. But she knew Ethan couldn't have smelled it. He had been playing in the backyard, far from Monsieur Harrison's house, and the leak was behind a wall. That night, when Ethan was asleep, Rachel finally told Michael about this miracle in Denver. He said the lady in blue told him, she explained, watching Michael's expression shift from skeptical to worried. Rachel, that was just a coincidence. It had to be. How, Michael? How does a 3-year-old know about a gas leak that even the neighbor didn't notice? Michael had no answer. This was more than mere coincidence, it was a clear sign of divine intervention. The days passed. May arrived, bringing warm temperature and flowers blooming all over the garden. Ethan continued his daily conversation with the image of the Virgin Mary. Rachel watched him, now with a mixture of fascination and something she couldn't take it name. It was on a Tuesday, 10 days after the incident with Monsieur Harrison, that the second situation occurred. Rachel had gone to the pharmacy to pick up her usual medication, something for anxiety that she had been taking for years. Same prescription, same pharmacy, same routine. She arrived home and placed the bottle on the kitchen counter while putting away the rest of her grocery. Ethan Miller was coloring at the table in the living room but stood up as soon as he saw the bottle. He walked to the kitchen, his eyes fixed on the medication. Mother Rachel, don't take it. Rachel looked at him, puzzled. What, sweetheart? The medicine? The lady in blue said there's something wrong. That if you take it, you'll get really sick. Rachel felt irritation mixed with concern. She was being ridiculous, taking seriously the imagination of a 3-year-old child about her medication. Ethan, this is the same medicine you always take. But it's wrong. His voice rose, full of urgency. She said, it's dangerous. Ethan grabbed Rachel's hand, eyes wide and serious. Please, Mother Rachel, please. Rachel looked at that small face, at the genuine urgency in his expression, and she thought of the gas leak. All right, ELL check. She picked up the phone and called the pharmacy. This is Rachel Thompson. I picked up my prescription earlier today, and I'd like to confirm that everything is correct with it. The attendant, Janet, whom Rachel had known for years, said, of course, just a moment. Rachel waited, feeling foolish. It was just Ethan's imagination. It had to be. Mrs. Thompson, could you please read me the batch number on the label? Rachel read the number. A long silence followed on the other end of the line. Mrs. Thompson, Janet's voice was now tense. Could you come back here right now? Rachel's stomach dropped. Why? What happened? Just please come and bring the bottle. At the pharmacy counter 15 minutes later, the manager was waiting. Her name was Patricia, and Rachel had never seen her so pale. Mrs. Thompson, Patricia began, her voice cautious. There's been a very serious error. It's the wrong medication. Rachel felt the world tilt. What do you mean? There was a mix-up in the system. It's rare, but it happens. The problem is that the medication in your bottle, with your blood pressure and medical history. Patricia hesitated. If you had taken your regular dose, you would have had a very severe reaction, possibly requiring hospitalization. Rachel could barely breathe. He almost took it this morning. The only reason he didn't is because my son. She stopped. How could she explain this profound miracle? Patricia quickly prepared a new, correct prescription, shaking it 3 times before handing it over. In the car, Rachel sat for 10 minutes before she could drive. Her hand trembled on the steering wheel. When she got home, Ethan was playing with his toy cars in the living room. He looked up as she walked in. Rachel knelt down and hugged him tightly. Thank you, my love. Thank you. That night, the conversation with Michael was different. Twice, Michael. 2 situations where he knew impossible things. Michael ran a hand over his face, clearly disturbed. What are you suggesting here? That our 3-year-old son is. What? Having vision? Actually talking to the Virgin Mary? When said out loud, it sounded absurd, completely impossible. But they couldn't deny the facts. He don't know what to believe, Rachel admitted. But he can't ignore it either. The Thompson family was experiencing real supernatural events. Weeks passed. May turned into June. The weather grew warmer. The rose bush in the garden bloomed in explosion of color. Ethan Miller continued his daily conversation with the image. Rachel and Michael watched now with a mix of reverence and fear of what might come next. It was on a Friday morning that the third situation happened. Michael was in his home office preparing presentation for an important meeting in Chicago the following Monday. He planned to leave Sunday afternoon, drive more than 10 hours to Chicago, and have time to prepare before the meeting. Ethan walked into the office that morning. Michael was so focused on his computer screen that he barely noticed him. Father Michael. Michael looked up. Hey, Sean. Everything okay? Ethan hesitated. The lady in blue said something important. Michael felt something tighten in his chest. After the gas leak and the switched medication, he had developed a cautious respect for Ethan's message. What did she say? She said you can't go on the road you always take. There's danger. A lot of danger. Michael frowned. Danger? What kind of danger? She said it's very bad and that you need to take another way. Michael looked at the 3-year-old standing in the doorway. Part of him wanted to log, part of him felt genuine fear. Ethan, that is the most direct route he always take. But you can this time, Ethan said, tears beginning to form in his eyes. Please, Father Michael, please. She said it's very important. Rachel appeared behind Ethan. She had heard everything. She and Michael exchanged a long look, one of those look couple share that carry entire conversation without word. Michael, she said softly, after everything, this is a miracle of the Virgin Mary. On Sunday afternoon, Michael left. He kissed Rachel and Ethan at the door. The trip was uneventful. Michael arrived in Chicago at 4 heures du matin, exhausted, but safe. On Monday morning, while having coffee at the hotel before the meeting, he turned on the TV and saw the news. A serious accident involving multiple vehicles completely shut down the main highway last night for more than 6 hours. At least 4 people were critically injured when a truck lost control. Michael felt the blood drain from his face. The accident occurred around 7 heures du soir. He would have been there, right in the middle of it. His hands were shaking so badly he nearly spilled his coffee. When he returned to Denver on Wednesday, he walked into the house and went straight to the garden where Ethan was with Rachel. He knelt in front of Ethan. "Thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "Thank you." Ethan simply nodded, if he knew exactly what Michael was talking about. That night, after Ethan had gone to bed, Michael and Rachel sat together on the couch in silence for a long time. "I can't pretend it's a coincidence anymore," Michael finally said. 3 times, 3 situations where he knew things that saved lives. Rachel nodded. "But what do we do about it?" "I don't know, but I think. I think we just accept it, and we listen when he speak." This devotional story continued to unfold. June moved on. Summer came in full force to Denver, hot, dry days. The rose bush needed watering every day. Ethan continued his conversation in the garden, but now Rachel and Michael watched with a mix of reverence and gratitude for this ongoing miracle. It was during the last week of June that the fourth situation happened. Sarah, Rachel's younger sister, lived in Boulder, about an hour away. She and Rachel had a complicated relationship, close as children, but something had changed during their teenage years: competition, jealousy, harsh words spoken and never taken back. Over the past 2 years, they had barely spoken. It was Saturday morning. Rachel was making pancakes when Ethan walked into the kitchen. "Mom, Rachel, Aunt Sarah is sick." Rachel turned quickly. "What?" "The lady in blue told me. It's very serious. She need to go to the doctor right away." Rachel felt something tighten in her chest. "Ethan, you've never met Sarah. How do you know about her?" "The lady in blue showed me. She said it's urgent that you need to call her now." Rachel looked at Michael, who had stopped reading the newspaper. "Ethan, Sarah and didn't." Rachel began, then stopped. "After the gas leak, the medicine, the accident Michael avoided because of a warning, how could she ignore this divine intervention?" She picked up the phone with slightly trembling hand and dialed Sarah's number. It rang 4 times. Rachel was about to hang up when she heard her sister's voice. "Hello?" The voice was tense, strained with barely hidden pain. "Sarah, it's Rachel." Stunned silence. "Rachel, are you okay?" I know this will sound strange, but are you alright physically?" Another silence, longer this time. "Why are you asking?" Sarah's voice was cautious now. "Just answer me, please. Are you in pain?" Rachel heard a muffled sound on the other end. It took her a moment to realize that Sarah was crying. "How did you know?" Sarah finally managed to say. "I didn't tell anyone." Rachel felt tears burning in her own eyes. "What is going on?" "I've been having terrible abdominal pain for almost a week, but he thought it was just something he ate, or cramp, or he don't know. He was afraid to go to the doctor and find out it was something serious." "Sarah, you need to go to the hospital now." "Rachel, here now, Sarah, please trust me." Something in Rachel's voice, urgency, fear, love made Sarah agree. Rachel and Michael took Ethan and drove to Boulder. In the next few hours, while they waited at the hospital, Rachel held Michael's hand so tightly that she left marks. Finally, a doctor came out. "Are you family of Sarah Thompson?" "I'm her sister." Rachel stood up quickly. "Your sister had acute appendicitis. It was about to rupture. We managed to operate in time, but it was very close. A few more hours." The doctor shook his head. "She was very lucky to have come in." Rachel almost collapsed. Michael held her as she cried. When they were finally allowed to see Sarah, she was pale but awake. "How did you know, Rachel?" were her first word. Rachel looked at Ethan, who stood quietly beside Michael. It's a long story, she finally said. In that moment, something changed between the sisters. The walls they had built over the years began to crumble. Sarah took Rachel's hand. Thank you, she whispered. You saved my life. This was another powerful miracle attributed to the Virgin Mary. Julie arrived. Sarah recovered and started visiting Denver regularly. She and Rachel talked almost every day now, making up for the lost years. But Rachel and Michael knew something greater was happening. And then came the fifth. It was the second week of July. The weather forecast had warned about strong storm for the weekend. That wasn't unusual, summer in Colorado often brought sudden, intense storm. It was Thursday afternoon. Ethan was in the garden talking I always did, but this time when he finished, he ran into the house. Not just quickly, he was crying. Mom Rachel. Dad Michael. He ran into the living room where they both were. Tears streamed down his face. Rachel picked him up immediately. Ethan, what happened? True sob, Ethan managed to say, Mrs. Coleman S3, the big one, it's going to fall. You have to warn her now. Mrs. Coleman was a widowed neighbor who lived across the street. She had a huge cottonwood tree in her backyard, about 50 years old, with branches that stretched over her house. Michael and Rachel exchanged glances. Ethan, Michael began gently, trees don't just fall like that. That tree has been there for decades. But it's going to fall. Ethan was almost shouting now. The lady in blue showed me. It's going to fall right into the room where Mrs. Coleman slept. Rachel felt chill run down her spine. 4 times before, Ethan had been specific. 4 times, he had been right. I'm going over there, Michael said, already standing up. He crossed the street and rang Mrs. Coleman's doorbell. She opened it, smiling keenly. Michael, what a pleasant surprise. Come in. Mrs. Coleman, I know this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but I need to tell you something. 5 minutes later, he was back. Well? Rachel asked. She was very polite. Said the tree is healthy. Inspected 2 years ago, but he hesitated. He saw something on her face. I think she's taking it into consideration. On Friday, the storm came. It started at a normal heavy rain, but it quickly intensified. Wind began to howl around the house. Thunder shook the windows. Then, at 9h37 du soir, they heard it. A crash so loud it made the ground tremble. It sounded like the world was collapsing. Michael ran to the front window. The giant tree in Mrs. Coleman's yard had fallen. Not to the side, not backward, but straight onto the house. Massive branch had pierced the roof, completely destroying the area where the main bedroom was located. Oh my God! Rachel whispered. Michael was already grabbing the phone, running outside into the rain. Other neighbors were rushing out too, shouting. But then, from the door of the ruined house, Mrs. Coleman appeared, frightened, but alive. She was crying when Michael reached her. He was in the guest room, she managed to say between sobs. Your warning. He couldn't stop thinking about it, so he decided to sleep in the other room just to be safe. If he had been in my room. She looked at the wreckage, at the huge branch that had completely crushed the bed where she usually slept. It would have been fatal without any do. In the days that followed, the story spread through the neighborhood, the 3-year-old adopted boy who had saved the neighbor's life. People began to ask questions, some with curiosity, some with skepticism, some with reverence. Rachel and Michael began to feel uncomfortable with the attention, but more than that, they began to worry about Ethan. The following Monday, Ethan Miller went out to the garden. Rachel watched him from the window. He sat in front of the niche and talked for a long time, almost 20 minutes, much longer than usual. Rachel Sawen Ethan asked question. She Sawen et listened, and tilted in full attention. She Sawen tears appeared in his eyes. She Sawen and nodded, accepting something. When Ethan finally stood up, his eyes were red and wet. But there was peace on his face, a deep peace she hadn't seen before. He came back inside. Rachel knelt down to be at his eye level. What did she say? He said that he helped those who needed it, and that now it's okay for me to just be a kid. He paused, wiping away his tears. He said he'll always take care of me, even if he don't talk to her every day, and that she's proud of me. Rachel hugged Ethan tightly, her own tears falling. That was the last time Ethan spoke to the image of the Virgin Mary in that way. Month went by. July turned into August, then September. Summer began to give way to autumn. Ethan changed, not just on the surface tale, more expressive, more open but in something deeper. He started to truly play, to log out loud, to make friends at the car, to ask Michael to play ball with him, to help Rachel in the garden, planting flowers and watering them with a watering can far too small for his hand. He still went to the garden, still passed by the little shrine. Sometimes he would stop for a moment and look at the image, but he didn't talk anymore. It was more like saying it to all franc, a silent acknowledgement. And Ethan was being a child, finally completely. One Sunday morning, Rachel was in the garden watering the plant when Ethan came out to play. He stopped in front of the shrine for a moment, gently touched the stone base, smiled at the image, and kept running to catch his ball. Rachel watched, tears burning in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered to the image. Thank you, Virgin Mary, for bringing him to us. For bringing us to each other. A gentle breeze made the rose bush sway, and for a moment Rachel swore she smelled rose, stronger than they should have been, a sweet, comforting scent that wrapped around her like an embrace. But it lasted only a moment. The image of the Virgin Mary still stand in the Thompson family's garden in Denver. Rachel still tend to the rose around it with devotion. Ethan never comments, never mentions the conversation et on sat there. Was it coincidence, a childish imagination, a miracle of the Virgin Mary? What we know is that for 2 months in an ordinary house, something happened that defied any logical explanation. Something that saved lives. Something that healed relationship. Something that transformed a family. And a 3-year-old adopted boy, scared, alone, searching for his place in the world, found a way to belong by becoming an instrument of something greater than himself, embodying profound faith. Before we finish, I want to invite you to join our prayer community for the Virgin Mary. A space of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share the grace they've received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a member of the channel today. Come pray with us. If you've made it this far to the end of Ethan's story, do one thing for me. Write in the comments, Lady in Blue. The word a little boy used to describe the one who guided him. I want to see how many hearts this devotional story truly touched. And every time I read Lady in Blue in the comments, I'll know that one more person believed that the miracle of the Virgin Mary still happened. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Share this video with someone who need to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.